Hey, it is Tuesday, and if it's Tuesday in your neck of the woods, it's Shop Talk Tuesday. Hey, welcome to Tuesday, Shop Talk Tuesday at I Know a Guy Bicycles, hanging with the guy. Hey, I'm Justin the guy, and thank you for tuning in. This is where avid cyclists, recreational cyclists can actually be in the same room with novice to experienced mechanics and shop owners alike. So all's welcome. This is a safe place for all of us just to hang out and do what we do. And this is just kind of a snapshot podcast of my opinion piece of what in the back of the bike shop in your local neighborhood is actually talking about, and topic of mind, and also industry and our experiences from a small shop perspective to sometimes a large shop perspective, because I've been in several shops between small, medium, and large. And hey, this is one of those scenarios where we can definitely gather together, rally against some issues, talk about what's being talked about. And honestly, I'm very, let's put it in a politically correct way, not influenced by any Kool-Aids, because I technically don't have any contracts or brands or actually vendors. So when you talk about particular brands and you carry them in your shop, you're kind of light treadly in what you say. This is basically gloves off, professional opinion piece, not a rant of just shouting out Chicken Little and trying to get clickbait stuff. But although it is what it is. I mean, you want them to click, and the bait is trying to lead people into these particular channels. But in any case, we are at crunch time. What is crunch time? Well, any of those who work in the area of shipping stuff and people receiving stuff, customers and shippers alike, you got like 8 days or less to get your crap to your house for Christmas. And I say crap lightly. Very well thought out gifts for those family members in your household. Yeah, right. It's a last minute click and go. I don't know I didn't look it up. I'm not sure, but I think this might be the last day of like ground shipping you can get to your home in the United States. And after this, I think Friday you're stuck with the 2-day air, which already shipping prices have escalated to some level of what I've seen so far. And so be aware of that. And the quick shipping, also be aware of that too. I've ordered stuff in the last couple of months where it's supposed to be delivered the next day. I didn't see that stuff for about a week later. And it is what it is. There's compound issues with those particular companies that do ship products. Either they use their own shipping service or they're using UPS alike. However the case may be, there's not enough people. They cut off too many people later in the season, and now they're scrambling to get holiday help, which they all are short of. Any case, think ahead. And that's kind of hard to say when you're like a week ahead of Christmas. You might be doing a little IOU gift, a little in that gift bag. Any case. And then local shops. I'm not one. I'm a shop that's in a garage. I'm not somebody you roll in and just browse and pick items out. I'm a business out of my garage, therefore it's all appointment based, more of a service, that kind of stuff. Any case, but your regular retail, they'll have gift items, hopefully promoted towards the front and appropriately priced, like stocking stuffers and so forth. If you want something that's for an avid cyclist, you probably want to go to a bike shop, a real bike shop that sells real bike stuff, or a bigger store like REI or Dick's Sporting Goods or what have you that have a bike section for those particular gift items. Any case, that's where we're at. We got a couple topics to talk about today. I do have a bike behind me to work on. I kind of have to do a twofer. I am behind on some of my stuff, and I was thought about this laying in bed this morning before I got up. If you're not always behind in the biking industry, and you catch up, you freak out because you caught up because business slowed down to a point where you did catch up. There's always stuff to do. With our kind of business, it's really weird because it's like 3 different businesses in one. and you're looking at the service side, you have the sales side, then you have like a fit side on some shops, and various others have ski or snowboard or winter or off-season trainer sports section as well. So with all those compiled going into the off-season, and you do anticipate a slowing, and those relate to orders and all that kinds of stuff. But if you totally catch up, like everything runs dry, you're not having anybody coming in for service, nobody's coming in to buy anything, and it's crickets, that's a tough one, because there's only so much cleaning you can do until you realize you can't pay the mortgage or rent. So you got to have the cash flow going. So a lot of shops have already pulled the oh crap lever of keeping service rolling. So they have a lot of service discounts out there. So as a consumer, it's a great way to take advantage of that, because you got a better quality mechanics left over from the season. They have a little more time to work on your bike, so you get a little bit of quality, a little bit of discount, so it's a win-win, and keeps the lights on in the shop. So support your local bike shop. All right, let's give out who's jumped in. Forbidden Colossus, thank you for joining. Is this live or mesmer? I remember those cassette tapes. I mean, yeah, I made yourself those little Love You cassette tapes, like, you know, Some Kind of Wonderful. You got the Jupe. I need to get one of those boom boxes just to hang in the background, just for the hell of it, you know. Number one, I do apologize. I think I froze. Okay, I do apologize. I do have a little bit of cold that kind of hit me last night. So if I have to mute or cut to a B-roll while I'm trying to cough it out, I feel pretty good right now. Just took some medicine. So in about an hour, I'll be like living high, and towards the end, I'll be like ready for my nap. In any case, I'm doing fine, no worries. I think it's just the after effect of our little trip to New York City. We were there for my daughter's 10th golden birthday. So we did New York Times, or we did the Square. Also checked out the ball it's supposed to drop. That's just people everywhere. It's nuts. And we checked out the Christmas tree at Rockefeller Plaza and that fancy toy store and all that. A lot of walk around, a lot on the cold, which probably anticipates why I have a cold now. But in any case, we had a great time. But that kind of crippled me, so I need to like get some stuff done. So that was one reason. A second, for a lot of those who do work from home and have kids, this is our last week of getting any kind of crap done before it's 2.5 weeks off from school, and then you're, you know, it's not too bad, but you got family coming into town and all the other stuff. So anticipate your bike shops and so forth, which I want to put a little note out there for. It's the holiday season, and as kind of a disclaimer for people in general, try to put on your best smile, try to be more polite. Reason being is you don't know what the other person is going through, either through the shopping experience in the mall, or your bike shop mechanic in the back, or the customer that's walking in the door. They either may have had family members that have passed recently, or are stressed out and depressed themselves. This is one of those weird times where depression rate gets really high. So you want to be basically the positive influence where you can, even though you might yourself be stressed and freaked out, take a moment. If you need to take extra breaks, go out back. Working mass retail or big retail, sporting good that I did a few years back, I'd always tell my crews, like, if you need a break, tap out, let me know. Because we have to approach this as a team effort. And the last thing we need is some Timmy freaking out in the shoe department and pissing a whole bunch of people off. So same thing as a customer coming in, don't yell at them because the gift's not there. Try to be a little more understanding. If you need to take a minute outside, collect yourself and come back. I've had a family member recently just totally pop their top, and I'm just like, try to control that down and temper that. So keep in mind, it's the holidays, and you're not the, try to understand that you are not the only one in that space. So anyway, be nice, people. Just put on a smile and just grit through it like the rest of us. All right, who do we have in the chat today? Oh yeah, start with from Colossus. Memorex tape. Oh, TDK I think is the one I liked. If you want to go back to the 80s and 90s with cassette tapes, yeah. Susan, thank you for joining from Canada. Hope it's warm, but it doesn't sound like it. Greetings from snowy Thousand Islands. Nice. Yeah, we are having a global warming effect here, which I am all smile to ears. It's 60 degrees Fahrenheit yesterday, 64 today, which means cycling shorts and maybe one layer on top and a head thing and you're good to go. That's if you have sun and no wind. Tomorrow's supposed to be super windy, but we have like this trend of unnormal seasonally warmth through all of next, like the 10-day forecast. So we have a little blip, but this weekend's going to be in the 60s and nice. So it's going to be a warm holiday for us. And hell, there's no white snow right now. I don't care about White Christmas because I've had enough of those in my past. So anyway, for those who miss those, that's great. It's cute and fancy, but man, I'd really be riding my bike, honestly. Right. Forbidden Colossus UPS. Yeah, you got temp drivers. I did the preload 1 year for UPS, and that is one stress factory pressure tank. So any case. JR, thanks. Hi to you too. Thanks for joining the chat. Well, Vital Bike Chains. You decided to join me on a Tuesday. You're ditching work, aren't you? Any case, he's a buddy of mine that does wax chains and that kind of thing. That might be a good segue of this while I clear my throat and get a drink of coffee.
Very popular chain process or waxing of Vital Bike Chains provides brand names like Shimano, SRAM, and various others to be cleaned in high detailed 5-step process and then waxed to your professional level with either speed chip or endurance chip, which has been proven to have better performance and better lasting events and recreational riding. Takes care of the messy process, and all you have is the clean wax chain ready to perform. Check them out. Discount code with a link below.
Yeah, so chain waxing is all the rage, right? So he does pre-wax chain. So if you're a consumer wanting like a Shimano SRAM KMC and wax to formulate it to either a speed chip or one of the, you've seen all the advertisements from Silka. You want to try it out, but you don't want to do the hot mess and mix things up. He's got your back. So check him out at Vital Bike Chains. Cop drop. Yeah, that's where we're dropping in right today. All right, Forbidden Colossus. Is shop profitability most dependent on rent paid and the length of the lease one has? That's a great question. Your rent for most bike shops will dictate how well you're doing. If it's cheaper rent, usually means that location's probably off strip, shopping strip, not the strip, but whatever. I digress. Yes, it does, because when we had Parker Bikes back in the day, we started with a very small shop, probably about the size of my garage, a little bit more, and we expanded. And when you expand, you sign a bigger lease after a couple of years, and then you're paying more per square footage. Always goes up, never goes down. And whatever you made as a profit gets eroded by that expansion or the next leased cycle. That's where I implore all bike shops, if they're starting out and if they have a leasing structure as such, is to really consider buying a location. Even may not be close to where you're currently at, may not have as much foot traffic. The internet is so powerful now that you can drive business and not so much rely on that particular walkthrough traffic. There's always an exception to the rule, but therefore having an actual owned location where your rent is, or basically your payment is the same consistently, except for the taxes, which is a very small variable compared to the square footage by 25 to 50 to $1 more per square foot. That's the best formula. And a lot of shops I worked with that are very successful own their own buildings, or they're big. Like I worked for Big Five Sporting Goods. They obviously lease their locations, but they're so big, and they have a team that strong arms lease agents to the point where they're crying and actually not making money for the first 5 years, but they do like 10-year and 20-year leases. So there's a whole background dynamic on that. But that is the first and foremost issue. And second is the cost of labor. People are expensive to work on bikes and so forth. So when you add staff members, increases that overhead. And a lot of shops have, in the process of cut back normally in off season. This has become a little more unprecedented of a weird season. So maybe some mechanics are staying on, but salespeople are being cut. I don't know. It all depends on that particular shop and how healthy they are and what kind of market they're in. But it is kind of squirrely. And we're going to talk about that first topic here in a moment, where it is indicating, and it is not the full picture. That's the underlining little thing of this article. But in any case, we'll jump in that in a second here. Get through the other questions. Ooh. Yeah, and who particularly is who, naughty and nice. Yeah, that's a good one. Who's been naughty? Who's been nice? Oh, well, happy holidays. Hope everybody's have some great plans with family and friends. Hopefully get some riding out there. Take a little well-deserved R&R, regardless if you're in the industry or not. It's that time of year we do a lot of reflection. I'm almost doing reflection almost every day. It's like, what the hell did I do myself? But in any case, I enjoy what I'm doing. I'm very thankful for that. As a lot of you out there watching this are a part of that escalation of, hey, this is actually pretty cool. And this is awesome, and you provide, when I started doing this, it was like just kind of promoting my website and validating what I do for refurbished bikes, to now it's a whole community, and this community that has grown to love, and thank you for being a part of it. And cheers to you for a cup of coffee and a cough drop. So what I have behind me is the Trek 1000 commuter bike. It's a bike that for a customer, he has other nice bikes. This is like beat around 4 columns and throw in a rack, throw a cheap lock on it, and go to the restaurant, bars, or grocery store kind of bike. Has a rack on the back and all that. He wants to get it fixed up to a point where it's shifting, and wax chain, new tires, tubes, which he brought that in, bar tape. The cable and the housings were all messed up, so we're going to be replacing all the cables and housing, and hopefully through this segment today I can at least get the housing and cables installed. So all I'm left with is minor adjustments and the bar wrap. Oh yeah, I got to do bike brake pads too. Just remembered that. But in any case, and yeah, it's like one of those things where he doesn't want it to be pretty. Let's put it that way. Oh, by the way, when I was in New York, pretty much every bike I saw out there, and they have now like pretty nice blocked off bike lanes and a lot of traffic for commuters and delivery people and all that. Everybody's on e-bikes. And when I read the article of 2/3 of the people on bikes in New York are on e-bikes, holy crap, that is definitely the truth. And these are crazy looking e-bikes. They're like bomb-proof, whatever, huge batteries, and you see all those articles about New York freaking out about the battery crisis, that kind of thing. I can see why. I mean, yeah, and of course, the battery life on those kind of bikes drop about half in colder temperatures. We were in 30 degrees as a high in Fahrenheit, and it was like that damp cold which cut through the bone, which I am not used to because being in Colorado is arid. But yeah, that was one of those scenarios where, holy cow, it was pretty rough just to be there. But I had a great time, and my daughter did too for her birthday. It was awesome. It did limit what we ended up doing because we get so exhausted, freezing in the cold, waiting in line like that toy store. We had to wait like 2 hours to get in, or an hour in line to get into. And you go to Rockefeller Plaza to see the tree, and you're just weaving around people and stuff. It's just nuts. So for me, on this particular bike here, I've elevated my game that only thing I carry for cables is stainless steel and rolled. So from Jaguar primarily. Reason being, it's stainless steel. It doesn't corrode. It's a little bit smoother and a little better quality. So let me at least get the cables in here. So hopefully everybody is ready for the holidays, so we're at least mentally prepared to deal with all their family members. I'm excited because this is my son gets to come back. He moved out of our house finished college, moved out of our house, got a great job in Montana, and he's coming back with his girlfriend for a couple of days, so get to see him, all of that, so excited about that. And, the disruption of family and everything through the holidays, like, limit my ability of how many repairs I can get and how many posts and so forth. I'll try to do as many of the social media things. That seems to keep the lights on to some level. But any means, I am not big enough. I mean, yeah, you look at my subscriber count and go, oh, wow, he's pretty big. I am not huge in the sense of take-home pay. That basically covers maybe going out to dinner once a month kind of thing. So, oh yeah, Forbidden Colossus, you're talking about November going to December. Yeah, it's like, for us, once Thanksgiving hits, it's like you hit the gas pedal and you're not letting go. And before you know it, it is mid-January after my birthday going, what the hell just happened to us? Hopefully I'll be sitting somewhere warm, or warmer, or maybe it'll just be warm here, and I'll be totally down with that. That's totally perfect. But in any case, also, latest top news of the Anoa Guy World Bike Shop is I became a NBDA dealer. What that means is National, if I could read the sticker backwards, National Bicycle Dealers Association. They've been around for a long time. They're kind of like the nonprofit of helping bike shops figuring out and navigating the cycling world for a long time. They're going to be at the bike show I'm going to be at CABDA in Las Vegas in March. And they're going to have a 2-day event, and the show's a 2-day event. So decided just to jump in, be a part of the community there, give them my insights, and then give my opinions. Hopefully it'll resonate with some, which actually it has, because I was interviewed by one, I think it was last year, almost 2 years now, I think, that they reached out, did a little podcast with them, and that kind of escalated to a whole nother level of craziness. But in any case, we're going to talk about the first topic, imports in the United States. So those who are looking out into our little crazy world of the United States, first, thank you, Susan from Canada and various others from other parts of the world. We're trying our best not to totally freak out, and we're trying to do our best to support our communities, regardless of whatever's happening at the top that seems to have no guardrails by any means, which unfortunately translates to our locals or our situation, which puts the bike industry, this is at, oh, that's a new topic. Okay, we'll jump on that in a second, the banner on the top if you're not seeing it. Bike imports down 24% year to date to September. So the takeaway on this is it is a very short article, and they give you a little bit of number junk and so forth, which is fine if you're really in a data geek, which I am too in that perspective. And they have a couple charts. Let's see if this pops up. Hopefully you can see it. Yeah. So this is an interesting chart because it shows China and Cambodia. And Cambodia is the place where a lot of treks are being made. And also Vietnam is making a lot of specialized bikes. So they have, the manufacturers are getting kind of fuzzy that's building it for the trek and specialized. And you can see a dip here for China numbers, which is in June, which is the whole tariff thing cut off. Also, majority of the bikes that are in Target and Walmart and some sporting goods stores, that's where those bikes are being made. And those orders got cut. I mean, stopped on a dime, stopped the press, do not send these things here right about April and May. So that's where you see a huge dip there. Trek and other big brands were still producing, and it's kind of like after adjustment, because they were going up in July for production coming in because the tariffs are a little bit lower. And this is where brands like Trek and Specialized Giant release their next model year stuff into the stores and warehouses. So that's where there was a spike, and bam, they're both paralleling now into September. Okay, looking at that particular chart and the numbers, here's the underlining issue is I don't think that's all the numbers because we had a government shutdown. If you didn't hear, if you're in the States, you bluntly know the pain of it. But if you're looking out in, the government shutdown stopped the reporting agencies, the consensus report, to bring out these particular numbers. So they're backlogged. So this report usually comes out a lot sooner. I mean, now it's December and they're now just reporting some of September. It's probably uglier looking at the downward trend than it really is. So trying to fluff the damn numbers. Any case, what does this mean to you? Bike shop people, you know what it means to you because you haven't done the pre-season orders. You're reserved on what inventory you're going to bring in because you don't want to have to be paying those invoices in June when nobody's buying anything right now, especially the high-ticket item. You're going to buy it as you need it. You're going to have one to show and nothing to go and do all the special orders from that direction for your high-end stuff. And all you're going to do is buy the bread and butter stuff that you've been selling out of your service departments. As a consumer, yeah, if you're looking for that new checkout point, the full suspension Trek, good luck finding the size or the color you want because they didn't make that many of them and they've already been thrown into the stores, especially their corporate stores, and they're depleted. So it's kind of like if you see one, that's pretty much it. So that there said, that even the big companies like Specialized in Trek that are trying to front load their stores a little bit going into the holiday season and into next season, it's going to be very light and polite on inventory and the orderings going forward because they don't know if they're going to be smacked by these tariffs or it's going to disruption. And also on top of that, who's buying? The numbers have gone down. And of course, those particular numbers are not reporting correctly or have not been reported yet because we had a government shutdown. So it's kind of really lost in the weeds. Every company and every bike shop is going to be more reserved. So you're going to see 24%. It's huge. I mean, that's a big deduction. And when you're looking at companies that are just hoping to have 3 to 5% on a year to year on a good year increase, this totally puts us back, like not just 2 steps, 3 steps, 4 steps, probably 5 steps back below even pre-COVID or even during COVID. I mean, whatever, 37% down on the China dollar on there. So that is painful. And needless to say, a lot of these companies are doing everything they can to keep the lights on. And looking at this top banner right here, boom, that's a prime example right there. Didn't think I'd be talking about this today, but Rad Power Bikes, they had a battery issue recall. So double check that recall on the battery. Well, it's not an official recall. It's basically stop using it and just, have it properly destroyed or recycled because they can't afford the recall. Now they're in bankruptcy. So just glancing at this, no investor is going to go into a hot mess of a recall and bail them out with a huge deficit like that. The chances are very slim. So therefore declaring bankrupt. So that's the article there. This is on bicycleretailer.com. So you can check it out there, which is unfortunate. I mean, that's one of the categories that should be expanding or still healthier-ish, and it's not whatsoever. It's just, and the tea leaves have really shown like a lot of the opportunist companies, KMT, the motocross companies like Gas and the other ones. I'm not in that circuit, so I don't remember all the brands, but they were making like, ooh, we need to make mountain e-bikes. And they had those for a little while, and all of a sudden they pulled them all out of the United States, or there's been some switching around and that. So in any case, it's nuts, just downright nuts. And you could see some brands that are solid, and you see these battery issues, and being in New York last week, you can see a lot of batteries of like, where are these batteries coming from and how they've been tested and are they legit and all that kinds of things. I mean, they've had some serious issues with fires and so forth. So keep in mind, it's a correction, and it's a correction on top of unfortunate circumstances. So any kind of boom in anything really, but in the cycling industry, you have a boom, then you have a subtle, sometimes a huge drop after like the COVID thing. There's a correction for that category. So like gravel, super popular. Now it's softening, and they're trying to bring in newer stuff. And now they're trying to bring in a little less expensive stuff to grab those newer customers, where that's the key for these big companies, is they need to really look inwards and go, how do we attract new to cycling customers? It shouldn't be always relied upon the big box stores like Walmart and Target and so forth. Some of these brands need to kind of do some soul searching and see if they can come up with something that would bring a good quality, good support, and bring somebody of a good experience into the cycling world, versus getting something and it falls apart or wasn't put together correctly and you have a bad experience or an ER trip to follow up with that. So in any case, that's my soapbox on that one for sure. There was deep discounts in bike last year and the year before. Absolutely forbidden clauses. Oh, I think the demand is closely matched now to the inventory to what is? No, they still have too much inventory. And the thing is now they eroded all the popular inventory with sell prices. Now they're stuck with a whole bunch of inventory that doesn't move. It's not the smart stuff. It's not the stuff that it's kind of, and to readjust that, you bring in new where it's getting tariffed, and that becomes a choke point. So it's pretty unbalanced, let's put it that way. There's still product and a lot of stuff's coming in, Continental tires, looking to get those, good chains. But I would say within the next year, those reactionary purchasing and orders from overseas of product coming into the United States from this disruption in tariffs, regardless of what they are per week, they're going to pull back. So we're going to see shortages, most likely, in my opinion, coming into the next year on certain things. So you'll get an 8-speed chain, but you're not going to get the 8-speed chain of your choice. You're going to get a Continental tire, but you're going to pay a lot more for that Continental tire, or it's not going to be available for the size you're looking for. Things like that. It's not going to be, you'll still get it. I mean, we're still a consuming society, and they're still going to pound as much inventory into our warehouses that they can, but you're going to see that reduction of variety and SKU reduction from the corporate level. Has been already looked into 2-3 years ago. Trek did a big announcement a couple years ago going, reducing our inventory by 40%, SKU counts by 40%. Almost half of their SKU counts are being reduced. That was 2 years ago. Now, think about it even more. So it's going to be kind of nuts. The demands, it's not quite there. Demand is decreasing because everybody's worried about their paychecks, worried about buying gifts for the holidays, to have a job going for the next 6 months. It's stressful. It's just disheartening. However you want to look at it, you are affected by it. Regardless if you're in a good position, that doesn't mean your neighbors are, or all 2 or 3 your other neighbors are not doing that well. So because we're going to be doing some serious soul searching here in a bit, I'm sure. Oh, Super Factory. Yeah, I thought Trek and Specialized used that Shazam Bike Super Factory. They did some interesting factory switches in the last few decades or so, but it still affects them. They can't run away fast enough, kind of thing. So anyway, 007, nice, great name. Yeah, what the hell's going on? I don't know. I just hope I have people make reservations for tune-ups and sell small parts and some frames and watch me on YouTube, that kind of thing. So other than that, every day is a whole new source of craziness that's going on here. And I do apologize for those who are looking out in. A lot of us know that our disruption is affecting your economy disruptions too, and that kind of thing. So, and we're just common folk. We're just the peasants here getting steamrolled by our own self, whatever. Bruce, thank you for chiming in. 1967. Hi from Vernon, BC, Canada. Love you, Canadians. Yeah. My family from the north. A little bit colder. Beautiful country, though. Beautiful. Absolutely. Been a couple of your cities over the years. It's great. When do you think things are going to level out? That's a good question. Leveling out. Well, first it needs to bottom out, and we don't know how far that is going to be. I think we still have some more room to go down, which is painful. And there always is more room to go down, but at some point there's going to be, I wouldn't say, there's not a safety net whatsoever in this scenario, but there is some least talk about some of the money being raised by the tariffs, helping out the farmers that have been affected by this whole disruption. So what that really means, in my perspective, is they're seeing what they've done and somewhat, not a lot, acknowledging what has happened. And somewhere along the line, someone's going to have to go, hey, like, we got to readjust all this, or it's just going to totally go under. But so I would say we're hitting some super turbulence right now. It's kind of leveling off through the holidays. We got a looming shutdown in the end of January. That's all probably going to determine what really kind of happens. And then those are out of the United States. If you don't know, our political situation is, and I'm trying not to be political, but it is directly affecting our environment, as seeing that first topic. We have midterms, which means a lot of the senators of the House and the state, we have a three-party system here, so the Senate and state are up, and there's enough possible flip. So if that flips from the R to the C in both those areas, and the president stays in the position he is, the next 2 years is just going to be a stalemate, flat, and nothing going on. It's just going to like gridlock it up, which is probably, in my opinion, better than causing more damage. And checks and balances will be put back in place where former forefathers have put in place, regardless of how you look at it. There's no check and balances right now. So we got another 9 months until that rolls out, or 10, and then it doesn't go into effect until a year and a month from now. So until those people get sworn in, that's when everything will change out. That's if that happens. So that is a very touchy question, because when do you think you're going to level out? Well, I would say if there's any hopes of stuff leveling out, it's probably in the springtime, going in the summer. If not, it's going to have to wait another whole year, possibly. But that's a lot of ifs, and that's just looking at the big picture, like a bird, from the satellite view of what the hell's going on. But anyway, that's my little nutshell perspective. How's that affect us? The tariff things need to straighten itself out, so our companies can actually determine what product they can bring in, and all that, so our economics can kind of recover from there. And then we kind of sift through the ashes and try to rebuild for the corporate levels. A lot of the bike shops are doing okay, for not all of them, but a lot of them are doing okay because of the service side and the lower price used or bike. They've shifted gears. They're trying to do the things that are recession proof-ish to move forward through this. And the reduction of inventory, honestly, if I was in a bike shop, let's just go back in time in the Parker bike shop, we didn't do a lot of high end at the time. And, our customer base, we would reserve the middle price point bikes and probably only go really light on those, and just bring in a few, about half of the bread and butter bikes the 200 to 300, 400 of those back. And now that number is higher because of age and inflation, all that. But that, I mean, I'm sure the inventory is probably cut in half, or at least a dollar value of it, because you can't tie up money, running capital in your inventory that's not going to move. Because as inventory, put my inventory hat on, you need 2 to 3, 4 rotations of inventory to make it makes sense to be in business. And that's like bikes and down to tubes and cables and housing. So what's going to be rotating? You're going to have higher turns in all your consumables for service, like we're looking at behind me. Then branch out, then it's going to be a drastic cut. And those bike dealers, independent bike dealers, are going to basically say to all their vendors, like, you know where we're in, you know it, and how we're going to work together is the best play of sustaining, like getting better dating, getting inventory, all these. They have tools in their arsenal to kind of help bike shops work through challenges like this and appease, like, the big corporations are basically leveraged by banks because it's all about cash flow for them too. So they have to have those commitment dollars. Like if you do a preseason order, you won't have to pay for it for a year from now. It's like those credit card statement things. Like if you move all your debt here, you don't have to pay for it until 2027. That's what they're going to try to do, to try to help keep themselves running and able to bring in inventory that is going to move. So it is a colossal mess. And how it's going to be dug out of it is, number one, people are going to have to be comfortable about their job security. Number two, products and consumables like your clothing and food have to go down, and also down to the point where they still have a profit to keep those companies going. A friend of mine's in the kid clothing realm because he's a front-end dev for a big clothing manufacturer, and if there's no profit, I mean, it's like, it doesn't work. So it has to start steamrolling from the grassroots, basically. And we've seen this before. We're on a smaller level, but now we're just, got a raging lunatic and we don't know what to deal with ourselves. In any case, try not to be, one side or other. But that's I'm affected, and my customers are affected. And the thing is that effects are still coming and being affected. So, all right. Oh, okay. If we're bringing costs, this is a good question. How much, say, do you have, and what bikes the big brands ship you? Do they force minimums on you, or does a bike shop order exactly what they want? That's a good question, because prior to this, pressurized is a play with words for another brand. You can figure it out. It was known with a model of basically forcing you to take a lot of inventory, even categories that was not in your niche, which is a bad idea, because if you're getting forced a lot of inventory that's not in your niche, then that particular inventory just sits there. And guess what? A year later, you're discounting it to get rid of it, to pay those bills that you're already behind on that particular brand of product, and that devalues the brand itself. So it's basically not doing the big brand any favors. The best model of that is work together with the independent bike dealer, figuring out what's the best model of inventory that fits their particular market, and provide them the inventory that's more custom tuned. Some do that, some don't. Some want to put a pressure. Some puts pressure on the reps that go in your door saying, oh my God, I'm going to get fired if I don't get an order from you of 25 to 100 more bikes, which happened to my dad quite often in the 90s, because our truck rep at the time was always on the cusp of getting canned. And that put a lot of pressure on the bike shops that were friendly. Like, my dad was super nice, but he sometimes should have said no more often than yes. And there's always that dangling of discounting or free freight or all that they try to do too. So Yes and no, it's tricky. Some brands are being conformed to do better with their dealers, but those particular brands may not have inventory right now or the right inventory for your niche of a shop. That's where the bike shop is not just your standard shop of the 90s, is now a huge mecca of different things in that cycling realm, where those bits, like either you're a tri-sports shop or you're a mountain bike eccentric shop or a BMX or gravel or road, it's hard to do all of it. Some shops do really well with all of it, but they're usually pretty huge and been doing it for a very long time. Smaller shops usually have to pigeonhole themselves in what's working for them at the time. Prime example is at Go Grava in Pennsylvania. Aaron there had his mind set when he opened the shop a year and a half ago, like it's going to be this kind of shop. And now all of a sudden now we're doing e-bikes and e-bikes, e-scooter servicing, like out of the ears. So his even perspective has changed, which is a snapshot of all bike shops that have been conforming to what is popular within our niche. That's where the vendors come in play, and that's where some people drop vendors and pick up a different brand, and sometimes it's a big vendor swap. Like the S got swapped out with the T in one of the big shops in Salt Lake City area about a year ago, which was a huge, big stinky poo. Reason being is they were known to be the S shop of the region, and S has a warehouse there. Like, should be like, and they done them so bad where the owner's like, out. And we're talking to these people because it's not as painful. Not the cut. They are now the desperate customer trying to draw business from independent bike shops that have the edge now because they're actually bringing in money from service and used and not from the new stuff. So they're going to be desperately trying to get bike shops to work with them, which they should have been doing that for the whole time, but they weren't. Just saying. Ooh, boy, that was a soapbox. Sorry. Rant. That was a good question, though. That's a tricky one, and coming from several different shop perspectives, that was a good question for Ben Colossus, definitely. Yeah, Bruce, you're right. The big boys had. Oh, Sorry, you guys be able to see this from. I forgot I'm doing multiple platforms at the same time. Now you should be able to see the comments I'm referring to. Bruce, the big boy, I have cold brain, so I'm trying to work through this. I got a little congestion. Went for a bike ride though yesterday. Had a great time. It was a good day to stretch your legs out in 60-degree weather and sun. Oh, beautiful sun. In any case, the big boys had too many SKUs before the turmoil hit, and many of my bike riding friends are pinching pennies. Yes. Well, like I mentioned before, Trek cut like 40% of their SKUs. That memo leaked about a year and a half ago out. I have a video on that in my library if you want to, look at that. And a lot of companies were doing that prior because the COVID descent boom, the descent was a lot faster, harder, and unanticipated. I don't know why they didn't anticipate it, than they thought it was going to be. They thought they had like 3 to 5 years to ride this shit out, but it didn't. It smacked them so much in the face. The head was spinning and this hit, and now, holy crap. And they're like, talking about wrong inventory, like, what was it? The stash from Trek. Trek still has a few of those, even though they canned the line a couple years ago. They still have like a handful of frames that they can't get rid of. They're discounting the hell out of. I thought Stash was a cool bike because it's 20. It's like, fat bikes are not great for my area because we don't have that much snow locally here. It doesn't linger. So the 27 plus or the 29 plus was like a fun, fattish enough bike that you needed. But anyway. I derail, but diverge, submerge, whatever. Yeah. Anyway. And everybody's counting their pennies right now. Or they're looking for like fun projects that's not going to cost them a lot of money. Like buy a frame, get some wheels and all that kind of thing. And which was a great way of segueing to wheels. These guys are pretty slick. I got a set I'm going to be featuring hopefully this week, if not next. It's a Mountain custom wheels, but this is what I had before.
Mexico Wheel Warehouse in California has an excellent selection of wheels to choose from. They're pre-built, or also you can have them custom built up to various sizes. You can reach out to them directly if you have something unique like the 650 wheel or a different style hub. Therefore, it makes it an excellent bike wheel set company that actually provides good wheel sets without breaking the bank. You will find them being very trusted and shrewd. They really hold up under a lot of different riding conditions and so forth. It takes the standard old school wheel building practices and puts them in a better format. But in any case, this is a wheel set you'll be really love to have. It'll perform for you for a long period of time, and the quality and the attention to detail is superb. You'll find information about this company in the description below, with also my personal coupon code. I hope you find a good wheel set where it works for you.
Yeah, if you're looking for some bomb-proof wheels, I mean, they don't do like a lot of they do have some carbon, but not super high-end carbon. That's where you go into Sugar Wheels, have them custom built there in Portland, Oregon. This particular wheel company is like, if you want a good solid training wheels that's strong, it's going to hold up for you, that kind of thing. That's what the bike was featured on this. So yeah, for the customer base right now, they're looking to upgrade their rides. Wheel sets is usually a good way to go. I've been selling quite a few of the used wheels, parts and frames, where people are more than that. Full bikes are really hard to sell right now in the used market. So that's where we're kind of at in the particular tight economics right now. Hey, Precision e-bike, thank you for joining. Hey, buddy. Hey, buddy, back to you. Yeah, I saw the light in 1999 and went to school and studied electronic assistance. Yeah, that's right. After a decade of traditional bike shop wrenching, service is key. Service has always been key to a lot of shops. Some shops have veered away from it because it is a cost in labor. And that really kind of got oversaturated a little bit. And now, because of the demand went down, because people are buying more new. And Josh at Precision E-Bike, he been in the e-bike business for over 25 years now. Great guy, knows e-bikes left and right. He's my go-to in our local community, go-to for e-bike stuff, like battery testing, motor testing, all that things. Or if like I got myself a bad egg, or the Rad Sports, he's the one to talk to about battery replacement on that, or disposal, all that kinds of stuff. He's the guy. The guy knows. So pun on words, or fun pun on words. Anyway, and you'll have one of those Josh individuals, probably not as great as him, he's pretty cool, but you'll have somebody in your neck of the woods that's more catered to specific e-bikes, and they're the ones you want to consult if you have e-bike motor warranty issues or liability issues and motors and all that stuff. The traditional shifting, chains, brakes, and things, most of those other bike shops will take care of. But we were very limited on what we can do in the sense of insurance reasons, or their neck in the woods, or what they have space for. All those things come into play, and that fits their niche. So just a heads up on that. But Josh, thank you for chiming in. Hopefully you got some idea. Give us an update on your new location. Are you going to pull the trigger and relocate to that new spot that you're sending me? If you don't want to say, you don't have to say anything. You don't want to say anything, but just kind of curious. Kind of curious. Before I jump on the next topic, I need to cut some housing. I don't know about you guys in the mechanic world. I like to use the housing that's lined and also lubed. There's always been a philosophy, a cross philosophy. Some people don't like it. Lube, they want it dry. Back in the grip shift day when they came out, they're like, don't put anything on your cables and housing. And then they came out with the worm to block off or make it more isolated, or could contaminant free. This is when, mountain bikes on a good day worked, but when they got any kind of contaminants on there, it went to crap. And therefore, anything to prevent stuff drying inside the housing, the better. That kind of deal. So, in any case, a couple tricks of the trade here. The cutters never cut clean to a point where you need to open these up, the little holes, so the cable goes through and doesn't bind up. This is the shifter housing, which is a kind of a spline coiled system. So it'll fray. I don't think I have the old housing. Wait, I do. Wait, do I not? Well, I had to cut it. That's right. Yeah, the housing got compromised on this guy. Here's what old housing looks like. It'll split. The casing will split and it'll spiral out. And that's no bueno because you need that compression for that cable to slide accurately with the right amount of spacing so it works. And the next trick is compressing. When the bike mechanic says, "Oh, your cable's stretched," the cables don't stretch. That's another misnomer. It's the housing compresses. When the housing compresses, that means the effect is the cable gets longer. So how to combat that for installation, you find an old cable, which I'm looking on the floor for an old cable I cut. And you take that old cable that you cut and you make sure you clean it, make sure it's not going to pre-contaminate that. And 3 tools. Get my little show and tell going on over here so you can see it without having to move everything over. Is that all I need? Oh, lube. I gotta have the right lube. Right lube for me is Tri-Flow for cables and housing. That's it. This is pre-lined, so it has a layer of grease in there from Jaguar. This is the cable puller. The Park one is a little bit better, supposedly, because it has it's hardened steel. I think the Pedros is pretty good. Then what you do is you thread the cap. And I like to put these are tight. Some of them are not so tight. Some of them just slide on and it's fine. These have to be compressed on. And I buy a bag of 500 of these at a time, so it's, And unfortunately, the housing, if you buy the kit, the ends will come with it. But when you buy in bulk like we do, you do a big roll of it, you don't get the whole little end bits. So I get the cable in there, and I'm like, what the hell are you doing? So you'll see. Then you grab the other end that you're going to compress. And what I'm doing is trying to pre-compress it. So you use your old man eyes, thread it through. So that's the other end. Hopefully you can see that lighter. You got the end cable and housing, a little drop of lube on the housing for it to slide on. Okay, so I preset my housing, both cable ends on there. All right, this is the trick. This guy. Well, you were like, why do you have a zip tie? Well, this guy's worn out. So what I need to do, hopefully I can do this. I usually do this on a flat surface, but I'm going to try to do it here. I use the zip tie. If you have an old one of these and doesn't pull the cable anymore, take an old piece of zip tie, slide it in there as your Teflon high-tech wedge. So you can see my cable housing now getting really stiff. Get your mind out of the gutter. And you can see when I compress this, it's going to pull that housing into place. And what it's doing is compressing those caps down. We used to do this on the bike, like pull the cable really hard while it's all strung up. The problem with that is if you have a fancy carbon bike with housing stops, you don't want to pull on those because you don't want to pull those boogers out. So then you'll be rebinding. Okay, you can see it there. So you can see how much of that housing is compressing. So I'm pre-compressing it. So that piece of housing has been pre-compressed. So when you do your adjustments and you go for that first ride or 2 rides, hopefully it doesn't settle. So you get the settling portion out of it. So that's my little trick of the day. Took me like 30 years to figure that out. The last 5 years have been golden. But yeah, so that's what you essentially you're hoping to get out of that. Then, you know, this gets tricky there, here and there. But do the other 2 while we're talking about other things. All right. Okay. Let's get back in the chat here. I need a forbidden classes. Should I ask if I'm looking on eBay for old Mavic mountain wheels? I've heard they can thin out from wear and may look good, but beyond their service life. Okay, so used wheels is tricky. If you're buying it from somebody that like myself, with specs, cleans, looks for cracks, trues them, put some, you know, I put ceramic coating on the outside. I clean the brim brake area with rubbing alcohol. You know, do all the things. Because the last thing I want to do is have somebody buy a wheel set and like, oh, these things suck. And then all of a sudden you got either a bad review or you have to credit them. And wheels are a pain in the butt to ship because they're odd size or big and expensive to ship. So you don't want that to come back on you as a seller. So if there's a couple out there that sell a whole bunch of wheels, and I think they go through them. And yes, more than welcome to reach out to them. So the rim brake surface needs to be flat, like a ruler flat. So you can ask them to take a picture of the rim itself with the ruler, straight edge park ruler or whatever, a flat edge, and see if it's still flat. If it's concaved, if I said that right, embedded by brake surface wear, like it's a big indentation, that weakens that wall where it can eventually crack. And also, you know, ask them to make sure there's no any hops or dings or anything. It'd be full disclosure on that. It'd be in their best interest not to hide any of that. Not to say there's people out there just like sell and ditch kind of thing. But that's, you can find some good gems. Not to say they're still used. You don't, sometimes they may not know, and even myself may not know how much life is still left on that hub. Or at some point they'll start cracking and that kind of thing. So that being said, all depends if the price is right, right? If you're willing to take that risk on a $100, $150 wheel set and pay $50 for it to be shipped to you, so you're $200 in plus tax, maybe. But like Bicycle Wheel Warehouse, you can get a new set, like I had. I mean, yeah, it's a little bit more, but it's new. Like, or this one actually came with a tubeless setup. So the valve core is already in there and tubeless taped. All I have to do is double check the true, double check. I mean, the hubs are smooth, and because of shipping, not necessarily the assembling of the truing portion of it. And it was packed good. And all I have to do is put tubes on it or tires and put the sealant and air it up, and I'm good to go. Which I'll be featuring that in a video coming forward. So that being said, if you're trying to get that classic to be matchy-matchy with the classic XTR wheels, maybe learn how to do some wheel building yourself or swap the rims out with some new rims. That's really not too hard to do. I mean, you gotta have it's a lot easier to have a truing stand and all that to do it. But good question. Wheels are, even myself, I picked up bikes used and I'm like, oh, they look good. You know, spin them and check them in the field. And the time I get them in the truing stand and stripped, I'm like, oh, damn it. And something's wrong with them. So even with a professional eye, it's hard to catch all those, to be honest. So, you know, you try for sure. Absolutely. Oh, Josh, a Precision e-bike. Oh, you chickened out. It's okay. That's fine. It's better to be safe than sorry, honestly. I was kind of surprised you're, you know, And if your lease is coming up, they may give you a sweetheart lease right now, but it's really hard to fill in. If you have a lot of empty spaces in your area, they may, be nice and give you a better dating or something like that. But shaky grounds in the industry right now. You could say that again, but true. Spent another year in my teeny studio shop. You can do an amazing amount in a small shop, right, Josh? I mean, I've been cranking, and at the point now, it's like, I'm glad I didn't do anything bigger or expand to a shop location, because things shifted so much for me now. It's like, I wouldn't need the space. I'd be paying for it, but it wouldn't be validated. And then I'd be questioning my decisions in life more than I already do. So, cautiously optimistic if it's the best deal. And I sent you, I think, a link or a spot location of industry, commercial warehouse space that's new and for sale, close to the bike path. Same kind of concept you had the bike path location you're looking at, but here in Loveland instead of Foco. If I was going to be expanding, and there, I think if you do the dollars and cents right, it'd probably be about the same amount what the lease would be, but you would be getting triple the space. And it'd be your space. And then you could sublet the space out if need be, that kind of thing. So there's all sorts of fun, twisty, turny things you can do when you own the property, which is huge. And then if things go totally south, you have something to sell, to move along. And this complex, right? I mean, all I have to do is throw out a folding sign on the weekend, and you'd have traffic of service coming in right off the bat. Even though they're not technically supposed to do that, but sign code violation people don't work on weekends, as my dad used to take advantage of that in Parker Bikes days. This banner would be outside of the shopping complex every Friday afternoon, Saturday, and Sunday. And that came from the city council person. That was a customer of ours. It was like, you can put signs out and not have to get permits, because those guys don't work. Nobody else gives a damn, except for the permit people. That's their job. So anyway, you can get creative. And like I said before, if you didn't catch it, the power of the internet is so influential now that you can have a business out of your garage in a neighborhood an hour and a half north of downtown Denver, metropolitan area, and still draw a business through that business. Draw a business through all the power of the internet and it's custom, because you're looking at it. I've been doing this for 5 years. And depending what you would, if I just wanted to do service, I could crank it. I'm in an aged out position where I really don't want to do volume. I want to do not high end, but more methodical, Zen style of bike repair and community building, that kind of thing, than volume. Yeah, my wife would be a lot happier if I did volume, because I'd be bringing more to the household income. And we may have to do that too anyway. But at this point, as it is right now, I'm trying to stick to my guns. And I'm seeing things work in the way I wanted to see them to work. But it's challenging, it's tough, even in my micro level. I can only imagine somebody making a huge commitment like Josh here, going like, oh, I'm going to increase my whatever X amount of my rental space or lease space, and in hopes to provide rental bikes, more sell bikes, and so forth. Which I told another bike shop that consulted me, like, I have this opportunity expanding, and I'm like, oh, hell no, don't do it, because at some point you're going to be paying for it. And when you start paying for it, you're going to be here for it for beginning, because you got the cost of the moving, cost of expanding, you got to fill that space with inventory, as well as all the maintenance of doing remodeling. I mean, most times often than not, you can't just walk in and throw shit up and go, I'm good to go. Is you want to make it your own style, and it takes a lot of takes a lot of work. And that takes away a lot of time and preparations in the off season to get ready for the season. And holy crap, all of us need to take every minute possible in January, February, or the 2 months that were slow to get ready for the next season, to ensure that we're here through the season, either from managing inventory, going through all those bins that are behind me and looking for any gold nuggets to sell on eBay, to clean house, to get my processes, review labor rates, all those things. Refresh the website. Is it more centric to what I'm doing now versus what I was doing? Is the service pages updated and make sense to a common folk that wants to click and make an appointment to have a bike tuned up? And what's involved with that tune up? Is there videos to go with that tune up? All that crap. So you have all that time. You don't have all that time. That's the thing. You have all this stuff and it doesn't get done. And because you get overwhelmed. Case in point, yesterday, one day I'm thinking, I want like these 5 things I'm going to try to get done. I only got a third of them done because I had other things interrupted or time or whatever. And now I'm working on yesterday's stuff of the other 2/3, and I'm only going to get a third of that done. So whatever I had planned for Tuesday is pushed down another 3 or 4 days. So I've been learning in a hot minute just for myself as a one-person shop individual. Time management is a real pain in the butt. And some days I get really good and get some stuff done, and then some days are like, oh, man, I got nothing done. Like you did stuff all day, but you didn't get anything that you were hoping to get done in those processes. And when you're small, like Josh and various other bike shop owners out there, you're it. Like you're doing the counting, you're doing everything from counting your inventory to selling the bike or servicing or filling up the tire for somebody. You're it all day long. And it's hard. It's very hard. And you're trying to be positive and you're trying to move your business, move the needle over a little bit more so you have a little more room to breathe in times like these. That's all. That's all we're shooting for. I mean, we know we're not going to make $1 million doing what we're doing. That's not what we're here for. But we would like to at least be a little comfortable and not freaked out all the time. And I like to keep some of my hair before it completely either falls out or gets pulled out. My goodness. But yeah, I think that was a great decision, Josh. And if you want to run ideas of locations and all that, I am all ears. I'd be more than happy to, help be your soundboard. It's like, is this the right thing? Whatever. I've seen some colossal mistakes, and I may be helpful. Let's just put it that way. I'll try to be helpful. Scott, Merry Christmas to you too, or Happy Holidays, whatever you celebrate. Not many of your unusual viewers. Yeah, I will have. Yeah, I got some usual viewers and some new viewers. Hey, whenever you can make it, it's a podcast. Some people just can't make it on Tuesday every 2 or 10 o'clock or whatever time it is for you in your neck of the woods. Oh yeah, Susan, The Art of Bicycle Maintenance. I have that book in my office. I flipped through it like twice in the last 15 years. I got it as a gag gift for my dad when he was alive. And then now I inherited it. So it sits in my office along with some other maintenance books, which are so obsolete now. I mean, you can just YouTube it and boom, there it is. You probably get a better I can't even talk. Right representation of what to do correctly versus what used to be done back in the day. But it was kind of fun. I need to flip through that. It should be like one of those fire in the background, mechanic sitting in front of the fire with some Christmas tree stuff behind you and just go, today we're going to talk about the Zen way of adjusting bike derailleurs. First, you want to take the adjuster on the actual B spring and then torque it quite to precision. You know what I mean. But yeah, thank you for bringing that up. That's awesome. It's a great title. I don't know if I could be totally wrong. It probably has some gold nuggets in there that I should read, honestly. But I'm kind of dumb that way. That's how I roll. Joe Channel, thank you for chiming in. Greetings from the Thunder Bay, Ontario, Canada. Oh, we got a couple of you Canadians chiming in. Yeah, you're just going to see what us crazy as Americans do down in the States, freaking out. I totally understand. I'd be doing the same thing. Do you want to watch the train wreck? What's today's train wreck? Anyway, thank you for joining. Hope it's still not too cold. I know it is because I've seen a couple of your videos getting ready for cold weather riding. If you want some entertaining video watching, watch Joe O'Channel's channel. He custom builds paddles, which are beautiful, woodworking, awesome. But he likes to ride. And at the one video that really got me, you're just sitting out there. I don't know if it was a cold beer or a warm beer or whatever. You're just sitting there, like, talking about your bike and the multiple layers of stuff that you have to just endure just to get out to ride in the Canadian snow. But thank you for sharing your experiences. Truly appreciate it. It's awesome stuff. In any case, we probably should move along to the next topic here. 4 degrees above freezing today. Oh, hey, it's a heat wave for you. Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, I guess you would get used to that crunching snow at some point, right? I mean, then if you get any melting, like, it just becomes a sloppy mess. You don't want to be in that sloppy mess, slush stuff, but I mean, we're lucky here. We had a snowstorm before we left, like the week before. We went to New York, and it was colder than hell there. And we came back, and now all the snow's gone, and it's been in the 60s. It does drop down, 60 Fahrenheit. It does drop down below freezing, but it pops right back up pretty quick. So it's been very pleasant here. And, I'm sure a lot of Canadian, the thing is, like in our industry, especially GC Performance in Florida, they're not seeing a lot of you Canadian snowbirds coming down. You're going further. You're going to Mexico to warm up. So it's interesting to see how the economics of that, the tourism, has really been affected too as well. A sidebar on that one. Well, the other top, I wouldn't say it's top news, but I want to bring it out because, well, it's the right thing to do. And not to target them specifically. It's just, it is what it is. And it happens to all companies. And this is the second one from this company that's released one of these recalls. The earlier recall was on a coaster brake hub on kids' bikes. There were like thousands and thousands of these. So double check that. I have a link below for both of these articles. This one here is the e-bike that they had. It's a newer model, so they should be able to catch most of these. And what it is on the Domane and Checkpoint, the crank has some chainring bolts that could loosen up and be hazardous. That's basically what it states here. Nobody's been hurt so far, and they say only about 700, which I thought was kind of an eyebrow lifting that were affected. But turns out, to my assumption, is it's 700 of the thousands that they have of these. But then again, I could be wrong. I could be like, they've only made 700. And if they only had 700 coming in, that's a pretty low number from 4 models, looks like. And 4 models with, 5-6 sizes each, within hundreds of bike dealers with the popular e-bike brand. So what I'm assuming, this is just my opinion, is just a subset of these particular bikes were affected. And which, I'll get to that in a moment here, that I kind of have a good validation of that to some level. And it does go down into the details, recall details, that nobody was hurt, thank goodness. 700 of the bikes were dealt with. Go to your truck dealer. They'll give you a $20 in-store credit towards stuff, which is really not much. But you can get a bottle of lube or 2 or something like that, or a tube for your time. And 3 reports of bicycle chains loose and recalled. So no injuries, like 3, that seems low on doing a recall on only 3 bikes. But you're talking about bikes that are between $5,000 to $8,000. I mean, those bolts should be torqued properly from the beginning. What probably happened, how bike manufacturing is done, is these bikes were made in Cambodia, right? And not the cranks. not the bottom bracket, not the motor, not the wheels, not the shifters or the brakes, which are all made in different countries. So the cranksets came in, and they come pre-assembled from whatever manufacturer they have the cranks being made from. And they do all the torquing specifications, the crank bolts there at that factory, not the Cambodia factory where it's assembled. So pretty sure that's the case. Could be wrong, but most likely not. So they do have, Trek does provide a website. Basically, you go by the serial number and you plug in the serial number at the Trek website here, and it'll tell you if it's affected or not affected. Okay, I had a customer, I had one of these bikes in my shop real recently. This one right here. Beautiful bike. They were doing the elevated guys tune up. In other words, I did a ceramic coating on the frame. I cleaned the drivetrain, went through the bike, make sure it's all adjusted. I probably tightened the torque those down, but you know, I work on quite a few bikes. I don't remember exactly. I definitely did the seat, post, stem, the seat, saddle, cradle, and those bolts for sure. And you know, I took the wheels off, so I did those. So probably check the crank. Maybe not the chainring bolts. Sometimes the chainring bolts, you'll get a creak in your bottom bracket area, and it could be just a chainring bolt loosen up. So it's not a totally not known thing, but if they're falling out and it's all of a sudden you don't have, this is a torque portion too. Josh at Precision E-Bike can tell me, like that's a crank motor, and if that thing comes loose, what's the, you know, it'd be dangerous, especially if you have it cranked up to full torque and all that kind of thing. Anyway, I had one of these in the shop. I remembered it. I'm like, oh crap, that's the model that she had. So I ran her number because I collect serial numbers with all my repairs now. So if you're doing service, and you're in a shop, you're doing service, if you're a shop owner, please collect your serial numbers on all the bikes you service. I had a customer once, not to the recall here, but I had 2 tune-ups done. They went riding up in the mountains. Somebody swiped their bike, stole them, and he lost all the paperwork when he bought them new, and it's like years older. He asked me if I had the serial numbers. Like, oh crap, no, I'm sorry, I should. That's like, okay, maybe I need to do that as a policy of what I do. And I do. And I did on this one, and I ran the number, and it showed up like, nope, not affected. So I'm like, huh. I still emailed my customer that has this bike. I told her this is one of the models that are affected. It may or may not be one of the ones that have the actual back crank. I did run the serial number. Here's the serial number. Here's the link. But still, please check with your local Trek dealer to have a double check to make sure. You never know. And she's like, I never heard from Trek yet. So apparently it wasn't her serial number was affected, or maybe she didn't register the bike, which most people register them at the time of the transaction. But that is the responsibility of the vendor or the product maker of this to contact all those who bought that bike from. Since this is a newer recall, they should be able to collect and fix those 700 pretty darn quickly, hopefully. Not to say there's probably not that many still sitting on the sales floor, but they should be able to reach out. And in doubt, if one of your bikes look like this, I'd still would roll it in and have the Trek people double check it. It's always better to be safe than sorry. They're saying they're loosening up. Maybe it's a bad set of bolts. Maybe the torque specification of the machine that put them all together was not set at the right tension, or their newton meter on that machine was off. It could be a lot of different reasons. And maybe they're just supposed to swap them all out. I don't know the actual details of actual recall. They're just talking about making sure they're torqued to specification. But that is a thing where I would say, most e-bike riders, tell me if I'm wrong. Most of the time, you're not standing up in the saddle and cranking. You're never going to put your whole body weight on that crank set. But the weight, because it's an e-bike, so you're sitting, and you're going to rely on that motor to do that acceleration for you. So that being said, you're taking 3-point contact to 2-point contact, and if that failed with a 2-point contact, that'd be more drastic than just a 3-point contact. But still, anything that goes wrong with your drivetrain in any kind of riding conditions, if it fails on you, it's kind of sketchy until you get to stop. And that could relate to any kind of injury, and nobody wants to go to the ER ever, so says me. But you know, there's probably some people that are just like going to ERs. There's the cough. Sorry about that. Oh, thanks for chiming in, Josh. Yeah, chainring bolt torques. Use a torque wrench. We got those there. Are wickedly important when riding on a mid-drive system. Good to know. Because of the extreme energy. Yeah, it's an energy force going in that. Most rear motor bikes, rear. Let me just repeat that. Most rear hub motor bikes have low crank pressures involved. That's very interesting because that particular bike that came in, it was a mirrored one that the husband had a motor drive in the hub, which I was doing the treatment on both. And I noticed when I was test riding, because I test ride all my bikes, I was test riding the mid-drive, it had a completely different feel than the rear hub drive. And if it came to me real quickly that the rear hub drive, you do less shifting because you're just relying on that motor to do the thing, and you just do the deal, and you don't rely on distributing that load on the rear hub. But then again, you probably wear out componentry more on a mid-drive because of the torque factor of the crank pulling energy into the chain of the bike and wearing those cassettes out. But I could be totally wrong. Josh is the one to talk to about that. Thank you. And again, like and subscribe. Throw some thumbs up if you like this content and want to see more of it. GPS7144. Hey, how's it going? Pass Bike Shop. Tuning in. Cold in New York. Yeah, I was in your neck of the woods last Wednesday through or Thursday, Friday, Saturday. New York City. I'm not sure where you're related to New York City, but I experienced that damn cold. It was chill. I didn't do any riding, but I was hanging out with family in Times Square and doing the Christmas thing there with my daughter's birthday, and it was kind of cool. But cold. Joe and Susan Canadian cold. Not prepared for that. I was running to heater, and still not warming up. They didn't warm up until I got home here and with electric blanket and everything. But anyway, I wanted to make that as kind of a highlight of recalls, because that particular recall, even though it's only 700, I give kudos to Trek to identify the issue, triangulate it to what batch that may have been affected, and providing a portal and a quick reaction to this, considering anything that's crank related. Let's say Shimano waited 4 years after the production run of Ultegra Enduro races to realize or identify or even admit there was a problem with those particular cranks, which now there's a recall. I have a video of that in my library, so look that up and double check that. It's a 10 speed, I think it's 10 speed, no 11 speed Ultegra Enduro race. And the glue was delaminated. Another issue there. So there's been a few that I've experienced the recall with. I replaced it with the newer version, 12 speed I think, and then they use a modified 10 speed chain rings for that. It's kind of tricky. But anyway. So it's important to get those recalls out. And it's important to be bike people to know and be aware of those recalls. Because even though you may not be a Trek dealer, that bike might roll into your bike shop for repair. And you want to be able to identify that to help that customer out to make sure the bike is safe to ride. And granted, there's a billion recalls out there, and it's hard to triangulate all of those. But it might take a good, service bit. But anyway, to our government, we do have the cpsc.gov, right? And you can just click in Trek, and it'll pull up all the Trek recalls. That could be a quick glance of like maybe your workaround. Like, did this bike have a bad fork? Did it get recalled back in the day? Or that Trek girls 220, which they still do a full recall on, where they didn't have a gusset underneath the down tube welded on there, and they broke off. That was apparently an ugly one, and they had a lot of those bikes out. And even today, if you find one of those, a part of the recall, Trek gives you a whole new bike, new kid's bike. Boom, there you go. We destroy that thing because it did something nasty back in the day. So keep in mind, it's not just Trek, not just Specialized, not just Shimano. All those brands go through it. Maybe it's a good kind of double check, like, hey, I'm not, especially if you've not been around a while, you're not familiar, if you're new to shop, you're not familiar with the Trex issues or woes or what have you, just type in the search field of the CPSC, and then you can possibly identify if there was a problem. And then you could be the win on this one, and not to try not to devalue the brand of the bike that the person rides on, because that bike might be their lifeline. It might be they love that bike more than their family. So you never know, and you want to make sure that you're not being negative or mean about it. Just say, hey, looks like there was a recall on this one. We'll double check the serial number or whatever, can contact. But if you're not a Trek dealer, like, okay, then you can drive them to, or not drive them, but you can direct them to a Trek dealer that can actually help them out, because you're going to be you're the expert, and you're going to be like, oh, Bob down at Trek World is going to be able to take care of you, that kind of thing. And I call them, they're expecting you to come down, they have the part, whatever, right? Especially on this guy here, if you're doing working on kids' bikes, and you get there's several of these, and you're talking 68,000 of these bikes were affected. So yeah, most likely, more often or not, you're working on kids' bikes is your service part. You might, if not, will come across one of these. And since it is part of a recall, the Trek dealer is going to be able to take care of that customer, give them a whole new wheel. Apparently comes with a tire already, so it's pretty significant. And those up in Canada, there's 6,800 sold up there too, so keep an eye on that as well. But I mean, so you got 70,000 are affected. I'm assuming there's going to be an extended recall on this on other brands, because that wheel is not probably only made just for Trek, or maybe it was just a batch that was from Trek. I don't know the details, and they're not disclosing the details. They're just saying it's may lose control. So why it happened? Maybe the torque machine was too light or too tight, not enough grease. There's a whole bunch of little problems that come out of this. But they identify the batch, good for them to release it. It's still on current bikes and older, that kind of thing. So let's see if we can get so it's, the coaster brake. If you don't want a coaster brake hub, looks like that's what it is. And that's what they replaced it with. It was a whole wheel, tire, and a tube. So in any case, maybe as a service department, as a double check, maybe check it as you're working on it. Either it's during check-in, or as best practices, or the mechanic working on the bike. Maybe it's part of the checklist to that. Might be safety first, people. Nobody wants any of the kids to get hurt. And guess what? If you worked on that bike and let's say you're another brand store, you don't carry Trek, but you did a tune-up on that bike, or you fixed the flat, something simple as that, and they go ride that bike and they get hurt, and the parents decide, it's not the kid that's going to sue you, it's the parents that are going to sue you, and the parents are going to sue you first, and then you got to prove that you did everything that you did was correct, and then you got to help the lawyer identify where the finger gets pointed at. That's happened to us at Parker Bikes once. That's a scary butt-clenching scenario for anybody working on bikes. So if you are a little ahead of it, and they have a recall set out, like, oh, that needs to be taken over to the Trek store and have them swap out that rear wheel that you're going to pay me $25, $30 for a new tube and tire, because most likely they were skidding on it or got a flat, it'd be the rear. So in any case, it's a win-win. You're the hero, you identified it, even though you're not a Trek store. So that's just a little scenario there to think about. Any case, because I know some of your bike shop people are out there, and hey, if you have buddies that own a bike shop or whatever, like, hey, what do you do about recalls? always ask the question and start the conversation. That's all we all ask, right? Ish. Oh, Scott chiming in. Look, and New Yorkers think Colorado is cold, but Central Park reminds me of the messenger days of the Big Apple and racing in Central Park. What a trip you had. Yeah, it was a trip. Wow. And we're worn out. I mean, we did a lot of stuff, but man, I'm worn out and it was cold. And believe me, the cold here is a dry cold in Colorado. So as long as the sun's, and there's another thing too, you're in the Big Apple, you're in Times Square. This time of year, the sun's pretty low. Therefore, you're in the shadow of the buildings the whole time. I mean, there's only a couple spots, and when I found a couple spots of the sun, I'd stand there and be like, just like, stop. I don't care if people are walking around me. I was like, I just need to take a minute to absorb this radiant heat, to warm up my soul, because my body is just never going to get warm until I get home. Anyway, that's where it was at. But I do have a video of Scott in my library too. He used to be a messenger in New York, and that's a life, an interesting life. Now they're all on e-bikes and e-scooters, crazy. And Scott, now looks like they have designated bike lanes for a lot of the major streets, not all of them, but a lot of the major streets now. So probably a little safer to ride around there. Granted, you still have the population of everybody else riding bikes, so that's something different. But yeah, I wonder where I'm gonna. It's a window sticker, and I don't want to have like my little window in my garage, and people are like, "What the hell is that?" There's nobody. Customers don't know what this is. As bike shop people, MBDA, it's help us to try to navigate bicycle industry business and that kind of thing. And they also provide a reward for best retailer, which I've always found kind of funny, because no consumer sees that door sticker that says top 100 bike dealers in the nation. It has no, it's not like a BBB, like designation. You better have one. Those will be a little bit better. And I didn't want to have a sign on the little window stickers on your shop. If you have an independent bike shop and you have a sticker, or think about having a sticker, if you're involved with a local charity, like here we have Realities for Children, which is they donate kids' bikes during holidays is one of their big events. And the bike shops will be a contributor, where it'll be a designated drop-off bike for donations, and the bike shop people will fix them up, like 10, 15 minutes of fixing it and putting it in the pile for these kids. And they always run out of bikes, which is super sad. But in any case, that particular sticker in my particular market, people will identify with that than any of these designated stickers from the whatever, because it doesn't resonate with them. So if you have a charity ride sticker or a charity event sticker that's related to your community, or for us as Bike MS, I mean, I see that like you support MS. I'm a supporter of MS because I do that as mechanical support. When I go to a store that's not cycling specific or just general, oh man, I'm spitting on myself. That, you're like, oh, I want to support them. I feel good spending money here. Even though it might be more expensive, at least I know they're a supporter of something that contributes to me. Top 100 bike dealers in the United States, it's a waste of window space. You're better off putting something else there, like a funny ad from Calvin and Hobbes or something. Oh my goodness, Susan, that's crazy. All talking about snow reminds me that I need to fire up my backhoe and clear the 6 inches of snow that fell last night. Oh my goodness. And this morning on top of off of the 2 feet we picked up lately. Oh man, you got lingering snow. Yikes. Yeah, we lived in Michigan for a hot minute, and we were there for 2 winters, and no, no more. Wife is like, we're moving as south of our actual where we live for sure. Here we do get some pretty significant snowstorms. We're in the front range of the mountains. So the mountains is different. Like you're talking about Aspen. Everybody knows about Aspen. You've seen it in every movie. It's like Winter Park and Vail and all that. They do have lingering snow. Of course they do, because that's where all the ski resorts are. And that's pretty far driving wise. As the crow flies, it's pretty significant elevation and climb. Obviously, there's no riding going on up there, but you can do a lot of riding down here. The bike paths are totally clear. Was on them yesterday. Not even one wet spot. It was completely dry. Come to mind. But you still want to be mindful of sand or stuff for being treated, that kind of thing. So you want a little wider tire or lower pressure or something like that. Also layering correctly so you don't get chilly or cold while you're riding. I mean, it was 60 degrees, so frostbite is not going to happen. Lost my train of thought there. But in any case, we do get snowstorms once in a while. That's what I was talking about. And we had a neighbor that has a snowblower, and he would do our 7 homes on my street. Every time we got it pretty significant, because we have quite a few. We have ranch, like 2-story ranch, that kind of thing. So every ranch is an old person, and we don't want old people to die shoveling snow. So we go out there and at least get the sidewalk clear. Well, that guy moved away, and I'm like, oh shit. So I called my buddy. I'm like, okay, I need a snowblower now. He was like, I got you. And he brought me a snowblower, and this thing's like a beast. I mean, it's like 80s looking tank thing, but it's a hoss. But once I get it going and fire it up, I have so much fun with it. I go down the street, around the corner, back around the other side, to do the other side of the street, just because we don't have that much snow often enough to warrant a little 5-gallon thing of gas a season. So for me, it's just breaking her in, and maybe I'll use it maybe 2 more times, maybe 3 times, depending. And most of our snow's in March and April, which is weird, right? But that's our heavy snow months. And that's the only time I'll bust that out. And so busting it out in December caught me off guard, as well as everybody else. So when I was blowing through, people were just like, oh, thank you for doing our sidewalk, because it was very unexpected that we got that much at that time. In any case, that's what I do to help contribute to my local neighborhood by just snow blowing, that kind of thing. And I figure it's a trade-off, because my dog likes to pee and poop on their yard. So, it's a give and take thing. And you're like, you pick up. I do pick up the poop. Don't get me wrong. I'm a very thoughtful pet owner. But a dog's going to do what a dog's going to do, and I take care of it. But if they're going to come out and yell at me because a dog pooped on their yard, and it's like, well, I'm not going to snow blow your street next time or your sidewalk. I'll just skip you and go around. No, I wouldn't do that anyway. Not that we have any of those issues, but people do have those little signs, and dogs can't read. Anyway. About reading, I can't read here either. Joe O. Channel, I always regretted not taking a job in Toronto many, many years ago as a bike messenger. Oh, yeah, Toronto is kind of like, I was there once with my wife's, had a conference there. Cool city. Really cool. Pretty sure I loved it. Yeah, I don't remember seeing any messengers, and I was a dumb American driving in Canada, and I took a wrong turn, and it was not a Mountie, but in one of your local law enforcement's, I cut something off wrong in a turn, and boy, they were like, you, over here, and they pulled me over, they saw the Colorado plates, like, you're not around here. It's like, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get to the hotel. I swear I won't drive anywhere else until we leave. That kind of thing. And they were super polite. They're like, it happens all the time. That's why I'm here. And it's like, oh, a nice officer. This is great. Because when you're in a foreign country, even though Canada is not that foreign from us, it still is foreign. You just like pucker up and don't want to do anything wrong. But in any case. But yeah, that's my Toronto story there. Oh yeah, and the last thing I wanted to talk about was, this is a fun one, just fun, just to throw it out there. and to throw my buddy John Bradley under the bus because he worked for this company briefly. And it's just kind of funny. Oh man, probably another cough drop. What's kind of funny is, okay, this company, let's just pull it up. It's a fun one. Just for fun. And there's some validation to this. I have a link below if you want to read the article yourself. I just read part of it. This is kind of funny. And it's about WD-40. Like, okay, ever since I started working in bike shops, back in the late 80s through the 90s, WD-40 bad. Like, don't use it. Because, you know, everybody has a can of this around in their house. There's such a popular product here in the United States. I don't know if it is across the world. Canadians, let me know if WD-40 was such a marketing impact in your neck of the woods as it was here. So what is WD-40 is the first question. We always thought it was kind of a general lube. You spray something and the squeak goes away, right? On your door hinge or what have you. And you as just a barely novice bike person with a squeaky chain, you're going to spray this stuff on there. Well, what it is a water, WD stands for water displacement, meaning degreaser, right? It just like, it displaces water and makes it go away. And it's the 40th iteration of the product before they landed on a 40th, which is not that very small, but apparently it caught on since whenever they made it. And basically it strips all the manufacturing grease off of the bike chain, which I thought was kind of funny because manufacturing grease is really a packing grease, should be stripped off anyway. So would you use WD-40 to strip the chain wax off before, or the grease on there before you put on your high fancy Domane lube or muck off something, you know, $80 a bottle of squat drops, you know, that you put on your chain? Maybe, no. You want to take the chain off and use a professional grease degreaser from the bike industry, either from like Silka or even white gas, as one person used to use, just to kind of get all that stuff off of it, because it's just a packing grease to prevent it from, it's not a great performance lube, let's put it that way. So the fun part of this, what really, the story I have with this one is like, yeah, WD-40, bad. And, you know, you want to, everybody's seen a drivetrain like this, have worked in the industry. You're like, oh my God. Okay, the whole waxing revolution recently has helped with this. I just did a wax upgrade on the Checkpoint, not the one that was affected by the recall, but another Checkpoint. And that was a me power Checkpoint, so there's no motor on it. But he had a Domane that he had waxed already and just loved it. And what that does is helps the chain, you know, wear. So when you take a WD-40, it strips that any grease off of it, and then you all of a sudden you have metal on metal linkages, which is going to wear your chain out, which is going to wear out other componentry out faster. Although you get the illusion that you did lube your drivetrain. That's the illusion part. You can use the dry lube that's a Teflon based, or you can do a wax with like a full heat treated wax system, that kind of thing. But all things start off by cleaning the drivetrain first, or the chain first, especially if it is new, from the manufacturing grease. Because the manufacturing grease is still on there, regardless of whatever lube you use, was just cross-contaminated with a thick, hot mess, and then all of a sudden you got yourself a drivetrain that looks like this. Then you're taken to a bike mechanic, and then we're just smiling with a smirk going, yep, your drivetrain needs to be clean. That's going to be an X amount of dollars because we got to take the whole things apart, because that stuff spreads all over your drivetrain. It's not just the chain. It's your cassette, your jockey pulleys, the inner workings of your rear derailleur, the inner workings of your front derailleur, if you have one. The crankset, all those bits need to be taken off the actual bike and cleaned, and then reassembled, and then you can lube it, you know, back up with whatever preferred lube, either a drip or a wax, or you can use the liquid wax version from Silka, also Squirt, if it has a clean chain, like a bin clean, professionally clean chain. Then you could start using that wax process. Silka has Josh from Silka has a video on doing that. That's kind of interesting. You can technically get away with it without doing the hot submerging, but the hot submerging gets into all those little linkages, that kind of thing. I have a service. Also, Vital Bike Chains has a service. So you can take your chain off your new bike and have it stripped and waxed to whatever you want to wax. So that's the opportunity there. These little brush deals or the little containers, machines, don't do damn. All it does is just mix it up with dirty stuff and doesn't really clean it. It may get the extent of the gunky stuff off, but it doesn't really thoroughly clean the chain. To thoroughly do that, you need to take it off, either submerge it in a degreaser or use ultrasonic cleaner or a clean solvent tank to get rid of all that stuff. Boy, they have a lot of ads on this particular cycling week news. But I thought it was a funny article. The reason why it strikes me funny is my buddy John Bradley, if he's listening in, worked for WD-40 for a short period of time when they decided to bring out their own bike line of products. This is an uphill battle for John because every bike shop is ingrained of don't use this shit, period. And they came out with a bike lube, which is actually not too bad. And they had a dry version and a wet version of this lube. It also came with degreasers. And I do have a show and tell of this, WD-40. And, poor John, he was like going to all these bike shops, trying to get this, product out because they formulated for bicycling. I mean, WD-40, the brand, has a lot of different products, right? Like any company. But they had a wet lube on there. And they also came out with a dry lube, which is a standard types that you'd see for conditions and so forth. So yeah, and then they had a degreaser. Oh, let me go step off screen and degreaser. And you're asking me, why do you have all these? I'll get to that in a minute. Here's the degreaser, WD-40 bike degreaser. But if you're getting this product, you make sure it says bike on it because then it goes to the actual bike part of it. These caps have cracked so they don't spray for shit. And then they actually made a WD-40 bike frame polish. Okay, before this it was just Bike Lust, which is, kind of a funny little name for Bike Lust from Pedros. Also Trek made their own Bike Lust, and they formulated it with like a vanilla scent to it. If you've been in the industry for long enough, you probably remember that, and they probably still make it. And it's probably super cheap to make for, and they made it for them. But John, my buddy John, he was the one that worked for Schwinn for a period of time when they were trying to refresh the brand to get into bike shops. He worked for Orbea, worked for Trek for a long stint. I think Avid for a short period. And he has stories about all that. And he also worked at Denver Spoke, all that. So you're talking about this guy, and his WD-40 experience is a little bit older, coming into Lee's when I was a service manager at the time, and he was like, let me show you this polish. So he puts a little bit of polish in a rag, and it gets super slick, and like, I gave you some aerodynamics there. As John is a salesperson, I mean, he's a pretty slick salesperson. Not like bad way, but, he knows how to promote products and been doing it for decades. So he's like, yeah, this is super slick. We bought some, and hardly sold any of it, and that kind of thing. Well, after about a year or two of WD-40 trying to get the bike branch to launch to get into cycling, they found out pretty quickly that it's not going to work. Not much to support the salaries of the team. You're trying to get the name out there. So unfortunately, they cut the whole branch of WD-40 bike completely. The department portion of it, and they just absorbed it into the rest of the company. You can still get the drip lube, and I believe the degreaser. I don't think they still make the bike polish. And then you're like, why do I have this? Well, before John moved part-time to up north, he had several boxes of this product still left in his 2 decades later, still in his garage. And I'm like, I'm doing the MS-150. You got any of that WD-40 still left? Because we just slap anything on anything just to get it going, right? Because instead of me going buying some bottles, I knew you had some. And he comes rolling over with a big box of lube and some of this and some degreaser. I'm like, sweet, that'll take care of me for a couple seasons of working on the bike MS. But that's why I have it. But the other story was, and a very interesting story, it is not just a bike lube. It's actually a very musky Old Spice mechanic scent. And apparently has been referenced by several of those shops that did actually buy into this, and they used it in their shop servicing bikes, that the bike mechanics were actually being pursued by their customers because of the, oh, j'adore. So go you get yourself some, manly WD-40 scented, crazy, need Johnny Depp to go out there and go dig a hole in the desert and, come up with a phrase like, what would you do for bike chain lust? Anyway, it has because a lot, that's one of the scents really becoming, not scents like pennies, but scents of smell became very popular amongst products like lube as well as bike polishes and so forth, which is still used today and actually test marketed to like, oh, that smells good. I feel good about this product. I'm going to use more of it. I don't know. It's just some kind of psychological thing that they're trying to play with us. But yeah, there you go. There's the WD funny story of, erotic WD-40. Don't use it on your skin. Read the labeling. This is not imploring you to do any such things of that, but it does have interesting smell. Awesome. Yeah, I figured that'd be a funny one to bring. I saw that one. It was like a little article. I'm like, oh, yeah. But yeah, you can put things in your drivetrain to totally destroy it. So the idea is to put in the proper lubrication on your drivetrains to give it the longest life possible for the chain to wear the least, and the less wear on the chain is going to be less wear on the rest of the drivetrain, where the bits get more expensive as they go along. So the chain is typically the less expensive item that needs to be replaced or matches to price equivalent to the cassette. Back in the day, we would say 2 chains to 1 cassette because of the wear. If you do the wax and the testing from zero friction on chain waxes on drive chains has been mind-blowing to a point where it really performs over all the drip lubes that are oil or Teflon based that for the drivetrain. So the waxing, the submersion of that helps the length of the life of it. It's a different little process of application. You saw my short video yesterday. That's kind of what I was alluding to. I do have videos in my library too that go a little more in depth on chain waxing, refreshing, that kind of thing. And it's pretty easy actually. And the less contaminants on the chain itself is so nice to not have black fingers when you're working on your bike or riding your bike. And for my little riding to Walmart bike, I wax all those. We don't have to worry about smearing it on our pants that are nice or smearing on our leg, and then we smear it on the couches and all that kind of thing. So there is a place for it. The performance factor is pretty nice. It's like anything else. You have to kind of drink the Kool-Aid and get into it. But once you get to that level, you're actually not too bad. But in any case, that's where we're at. All righty. Well, I got to finish stringing this up. Got a couple more cables, housing for the brakes to do, string it up, then wrap the bars and take it for a test ride. And I should be done on that particular job. The next projects I got going, I want to finish that Klein with the wheels that I featured, going to be featuring. So I got to figure that out in my head. I got a couple consignment bikes I still need to go through and tune up. I got a couple bikes to either determine if they're going to be parted out or what have you. So that's what I'm going to be doing there. And again, thanks for hanging out with me in the garage. Please like and subscribe if you like this content. And if it's Tuesday in your neck of the woods, it's Shop Talk Tuesday. But I'll leave you with, oh, did I forget somebody? Anyway, if you do shop on Amazon, here's something for you.
On Amazon, I do have a Amazon store, like the latest pick, basically, of products that are on sale, that kind of thing, and various other parts and tools and so forth that I suggest using within those particular categories. Check that out. Go through, and even if you don't buy the product that I suggest and you find something else that fits your needs better or your grocery list or whatever you end up buying, I get a little kick. So that's a good opportunity for you to get something and I get something that helps support me doing what I'm doing.
All righty. I want to give a shout out to those who chimed in the chat today. Scott, thank you for chiming in. Messenger allowed me the freedom for hours. The sunrise, the sunset, learn to navigate the traffic. Loved it. Nice. Joe from up north, thank you for chiming in. Hopefully you have some nicer, sunnier riding days through this holiday season, and Susan as well. Thank you for chiming in and telling us about snow and also the bike of Zen. The Zen Bike Mechanics. I need to bring out those, do a show and tell. Maybe do a side by the fire reading of bike mechanic manuals of yesteryear. I also have another one. I have a couple of them. They're very interesting, intriguing. Josh from Precision Bike, thanks for chiming in. Appreciate your inserts on e-bike questions and so forth. You are a gym in our neighborhood or in our neck of the woods. We're helping all those with e-bike issues. GPAS 7144, thank you for chiming in from New York. Thank you for watching, appreciate it. Let's see here, Forbidden Colossus, thank you again for chiming in as being a regular, as well as a few other ones of you. Bruce as well. Thank you for lending some insights there and some questions. 007, great name. And what the hell is going on? That's a good question. And Bill from Vital Bike Chains, got that right. You need your bike chains waxed or chains or new chains. He's the guy I'm referring to. I'm not really in that niche. I'm just gonna give him the business because he does it well, and that's all he does. So JR, thank you for chiming in. Hi to you too. I think I got everybody. Old Man Daniel, thank you for chiming in. Yeah, I will take some cold medicine after I finish this up, have some lunch, and take a well-deserved nap. Try to get this to not escalate to be any more than just being a little bit of a nuisance. I mean, this is one of those things. I got my COVID shot, I got my flu shot, and sure enough, dollars to donuts. Next week, I get a cold. Then I share it with my wife, and I think my daughter got it, but didn't seem to be affected. And then this is the second round. Apparently, I was told I was not allowed to share, so I hope you don't get it. Hey, everybody, have a wonderful holidays. I'll be here on Friday Freakout at 10 o'clock after, what's his name? Bike Farmer guy. He has his live on Friday, so mine's right after his. So if you want to keep the conversation going, or at least just get all giddy with it, bike stuff on Friday, we're here for you to support all your bike craziness as podcast form. And that one's a little bit shorter. It's not 2 hours and 1 hour for me. I have a couple of videos lined up. Got some projects I'm working on. If you'd be here next Tuesday, planning on it, and the following after that, barring any colds or any issues. But other than that, though, I think everybody, you got like 8 days to get your crap to your house to wrap up. So get clicking, get clicking and ordering, or go to your local shop local if you can. But a lot of those local shops, they ship too. Support local bike shops if you can, and hopefully everybody has a wonderful and safe holidays, and whatever you acknowledge. And if we don't see you till after the New Year, we'll see you till after New Year. But I'll be here on Friday. I'll be here as well live on Tuesday. And again, this is the most interactive live podcast in the cycling realm. And if somebody else is out there that's more engaging than me live, go ahead and prove it. In any case, thanks guys. Thank you everybody for chiming in. I hope everybody has a wonderful day. Until next Tuesday. And also, if it's nice in your neck of the woods, please go for a ride. Always leave a leader because it has end screen credits, so at least 15 seconds or so. And sometimes I just forget. It's still rolling. Oh, Trek 1000. Interesting, it has Ultegra on it, 105. Did not get spec like that. Anyway, some fancy bits put on it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a wonderful day, as my daughter would say.